And sometimes it takes a long time to get back to the heart and soul of something, but here we are. A historic win for Donald Trump. And there were a few key people, I think, who were, exceedingly fair along the way and saw through the haze of the bitterness and the upset in the conservative commentariat. And one of them was my dear friend of too many years to even recount, Sean Hannity, of course, whose ratings, by the way, are through the roof on Fox News. No big surprise there, but he joins us now, one of the top, of course, the top radio show in the United States as well, and we're just delighted to have Sean on. Sean, great to talk to you. How are you?
Hey, Laura, how are you?
I'm great.
You said something that's really interesting. I don't know if we will ever in our lifetime see, and by the way, I apologize for my allergies. I don't think we'll ever in our lifetime see a primary and an election like the one we're going into. I mean, when you really think about this from the very beginning, I don't think anybody would have given any odds that Donald Trump was going to win this. And I think there's really the one thing that you pointed out when we had a study come out in the Examiner last week where 20% of American families don't have a single family member in the labor force, and you have 95 million Americans out of the labor force. And then you talk about, well, we have anywhere between 11 and 14 illegal immigrants in the country. How many of them have jobs or competing for jobs? And on top of that, they're driving wages down for American workers. And, you talk about open borders. All of that resonated. I would say that is the top thing, issue-wise, that propelled Donald Trump in this election. I don't think there's any doubt.
There's an America movement that he he tapped into. It's people were upset because he said America first, and that harkens back to obviously the pre-World War II, nastiness and so forth. But people understand what he means by that. It just means the decisions we make in foreign policy and economic policy have to redound to the benefit of America and Americans, and we haven't done that for a long time.
And if you're gonna, I agree. And if you're going to, I think historians are going to really examine this election closely. You cannot factor out how we got to this point. Republicans were given every opportunity to fight the Obama agenda. And I have never seen a group of weaker, more timid, feckless, visionless people. John Boehner, he can lash out and call Ted Cruz Lucifer all he wants, but he accumulated over $4 trillion in debt in his time as Speaker. They would have all those phony votes about repealing Obamacare, but they never had any teeth in them because they never used their constitutional power of the purse. And then in 2014, I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back. They said they would stop the president's illegal, unconstitutional executive amnesty, and they didn't. And not only did they not do it, they funded it.
Well, we begged them to do it. Sean, we begged them. We literally said, if you don't do this, bad things are going to happen, or your world is going to be turned upside down. You're either, as we saw in 2008, if you lose the people, you're going to get Obama. And if you nominate someone who does not capture that spirit of the people in 2012, you are also going to lose. I mean, but how many times did we try to make this argument, and it fell on deaf ears for the most part, with the exception of a few people like Ted Cruz did well and Sessions did well, but not many others.
And you got to give Cruz a lot of credit here. I mean, he stood up and he was, hated by these people for standing up for what he believed in. It's funny. Ted Cruz rejected when I would say to him, well, we've got two insurgent candidates here. He didn't see Donald like that. Okay, maybe not insurgent by his definition, but certainly outsider, a belief that the people that are there cannot get the job done, don't have the will to get the job done, won't fight to get the job done. And, you just have to look at these numbers. The American people, this is going to end up being a record GOP primary year in terms of the 160 some odd years of the Republican Party. They've never had this many votes for any one GOP primary candidate. Something is happening out there. I don't fully understand it, but I think I understand it from this respect. In the 8 years of Obama, we've doubled the debt. We've added tens of millions of more Americans in poverty and on food stamps and out of the labor force. 1 in 4 families that don't have a single family member.
It hasn't worked.
It's not. Then you go to the Iranian deal. Then you go to this president that can't even say the words radical Islam. So I think cumulatively, people are disgusted.
Well, you do understand it, Sean. You said you don't understand it. You just laid it out. The policies haven't worked for the people. Period. I mean, they promised globalization was going to work. Open borders was going to be okay. They promised these wars were all going to work out. It was all going to settle out, and it was going to do right by the American people. And from globalization to the trade deals to open borders to all the debt accumulation, the people have suffered, and the people have said enough. And by the way, if Trump does not do what he said he's going to do, they'll throw him out too. That's the mood of the people.
In a heartbeat. There's no doubt about it. Look, I don't think this general election is easy. I think this is going to be much harder than people think. I don't care who the candidate would have been. It was never going to be easy.
No,
but I will say this: governance. Laura, if you keep it simple, stupid, it's not that hard. Bill Clinton, it's the economy, stupid. Okay, here's what it is: it's the economy, it's jobs, it's trade, it's open borders, it's a broken school system, it's a broken healthcare system, and politicians have made the lives of the average American person worse. And that is what this general election is going to be about. I am concerned about party unity. There's a lot of bad blood out there on the field right now.
I'm going to play something for you, Sean. Sorry to interrupt. Rich Lowry, who, as you know, devoted an entire issue of National Review to trying to stop Donald Trump. He was asked a question on Fox last night about, well, what's going to happen to all you people who signed on to this National Review symposium?
Some of them are just never Trump, and they're not going to vote for him no matter what. We haven't officially said that yet. We'll want the dust to settle and then make a very carefully considered statement. But this is going to be a bizarre election.
It's going to be a bizarre election. So that's, bizarre. I'm not sure.
I'm not
why
really,
is it bizarre?
Look, I guess I don't even think the conservative movement understands. The Republican Party is not conservative. There are exceptions to that rule, but you cannot, by any definition, look at the governance of Republicans in D.C. and say they're conservative. I would say conservatism, and this is my point, on the state level has worked. Rick Perry, Rick Scott, Bobby Jindal, John Kasich, Scott Walker, Nikki Haley have transformed their states governing conservatively. Republicans in Washington have not. And the two people that they hated the most in this race were the two people that were successful, and that was Trump and Cruz. And it's amazing because I think it's their incompetence, frankly, that it's at the foundation of the creation of both of their success. I know Cruz supporters are very disappointed right now. It's going to take some healing, and hopefully people will come together. But I'll tell you this, and I'm going to make this prediction now. You are going to see people like National Review, Washington insiders, even members of the Republican Party and prominent Republicans. They want nothing but a loss to Hillary in November so they can wag their fingers in the face of American voters and say, see, you didn't listen to our wisdom.
Never Trump.
Yeah.
Hashtag.
And you know what? How big an impact? I actually think they'll go through steps to help Hillary. They'll undermine.
They're already doing that. They're absolutely already doing that. They've already given her countless sound bites to use in commercials. They've already pledged that they're going to die on the hill of their hashtag simplicity, simpleton, ad hominem laden attacks. He's a fascist. He's stupid. He's a fraud. He's not a conservative. I'm like, okay, well, how many La Raza activists were outside of Ted Cruz's events? Okay, I mean, God bless, but I mean, how many? So let me just get this straight. On a stage, Hillary and Trump together, they're both. The American people are going to see that they're just the same. Oh, okay. It doesn't make any sense.
It's just not true. One of the things that frustrated me. Look, and I understand it. Whenever you're in a tight campaign, you always have candidates. They will portray on all sides, everybody was guilty of it, no exceptions. They'll always portray their opponent in the worst possible light.
It's rough. And Trump went overboard on that a few times for sure.
Yeah, of course. He's not, you know what? Yeah, the guy, on the other hand, it's sort of like, it reminds me of all the people. If you survey people in elections, they don't like negative ads. Guess why we keep getting negative ads? Because they work.
Yeah. Well, low energy.
You know what? Yeah, all of that stuff.
Low energy.
You know,
That's still
branding people certainly works. You know, it's going to be fascinating to see how Clinton deals with it. I can tell you that every Democrat that I know, the one person they were most afraid of in a general,
Trump.
They would tell me is Trump.
Yeah, well, you had Doug Schoen on last night, Sean.
Last night he said it. Yeah.
Schoen, the Democrat pollster. But you know what I like him? I like him, Pat Caddell, these guys. They're fair. And he's not just laying a bunch of garbage on. He said, this is going to be tough. He's like, this guy's coming at you with, like, he's coming at you with like a knife, a stiletto. He's throwing a chainsaw at you, a hammer. Like, you don't know how you're going to defend yourself from Trump. And they're clearly worried. And he made the point, Sean, that I want you to touch on. He made the point that contrary to what all the never-Trumpers are saying, that, you could never win any African-American votes, could never get any Latino votes, he made a point on your show about the African-American vote and peeling off just a small percentage to make a profound impact on the general election, because he's going to go into these neighborhoods and he's going to say, guess what? It hasn't worked for you. I'm going to work for you, and you're going to actually have a chance to get these jobs using the immigration wedge. I think will actually, work to some extent, and he pointed that out.
Look, just look at the numbers. I mean, under the Obama economy, the demographic group that has been disproportionately negatively impacted by Obama's horrible policies are minorities, Black Americans, Latino Americans. Inner city America has been hurt the most, and the unemployment rates are dramatically higher. Why are all the blue states doing just horribly, but those states that I mentioned earlier with conservative governors have done so well? Look, conservative policies will work. There's no doubt about it, but you got to get somebody who's going to implement them and has the power to implement them and the power to basically put a spine transplant in every Republican that is elected there as well.
Sean,
look, I don't have a crystal ball. I've thought about this and thought about this. I'd even be sitting in town halls looking at whoever I happen to be interviewing, thinking, how would they do in a general election? I still, to this second, I don't have the answer to that. I don't know what's going to happen. The only thing that I know that will happen, though, is that if Republicans remain bitter and establishment elitists and National Review and elsewhere, and in Washington, if they undermine their party's candidate, then you could probably get used to saying Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, President Clinton.
You either unite or die. That's it. Mm-hmm. There's not going to be any in between.
Sean, before we let you go, Trump picking an establishment person as VP, what would that feel like to this America movement?
I would rather see him getting a strong, proven, successful conservative. Who that is, I can name 10 names. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's people inside government, outside government, people that know how to get the job done. Yeah. I would look to the governors like Walker. I'd look to even Kasich. I would look to somebody like Rubio, who's also that brings the future of the party forward.
You think the future? Whoa. You think the future of the party is the guy who couldn't win his home state, who did the immigration deal?
I think Marco Rubio paid the biggest price for the biggest mistake he made in his career. And I think at this point, he paid the price. I think he's learned a lesson. I think he's instinctively conservative. He's bright, young, articulate. If you really wanted to get things done and really wanted to govern in a way that was transformational, I'd probably pick Newt Gingrich. He's the smartest guy.
That's my choice.
And he's the last guy that's balanced the budget. Mm-hmm. He's the last guy that has institutionalized reforms like welfare reform. And right. I would also run as a team. I would get a lot of these governors that I just mentioned, and I'd put them on the team. Yep. And by the way, I'd include Senator Cruz right at the top of the list there, too.
Well, I'd show the country that you're bringing in a rapid strike force of doers. And it's a SWAT team of doers in government. I think that's a great idea, Sean. Sean, I've loved appearing on your show.
One last thing. I would also put every promise on paper and make another contract with America.
Bingo.
This is what we'll do. Elect us.
First 100 days, this is what we're doing. Sean Hannity, thank you so much for everything you're doing out
there. All right,
there.
Laura. Talk to you soon.
All right. We appreciate it. We'll take a break. Don't go away.